Just say I do.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Veil, a show that provides insight into the world of weddings. Today, we're going back to basics. We're going to be talking about Wedding Planning 101, and we have our normal, usual Behind the Veil crew that's going to be joining us, as well as the talents of Nicole Sellers, the owner of CLE Events and Rentals. So I'm going to actually just introduce everybody all at once. So hello, Marcy Gutenberg with An Affair to Remember by Marcy. Hello, Brooke Logan Stoner. And hello, Nicole Sellers. It's nice to have you back, Nicole.
Nice to be back. Yay!
So I made the intro super simple because we all of us are event pros. We've been in this business for a million years. And, you know, you can't tell because of this fabulous little correcting camera that I have. It smooths out the wrinkles.
And like a floppy home haircut. Basic.
Exactly. Still doing my at-home haircut. Shut up. Oh my goodness. But anyway, so now that the world is starting to come back to normal, one of the things that there has just been a flood of new clients, that are coming in, and we're all starting to get more and more calls. And I think that this show is important because I think that it's important to get the information out there about what you should be thinking about as a bride starting your planning now. You know, what are the questions? What are the things that you need to be really focused on when you start planning a wedding? Because you don't know what you don't know. At the end of the day, I think that's the biggest thing is that, most people that are planning their wedding have never done it before. And so this is their first foray, and they may have helped their sister do their wedding. But a lot of times that was because they had a really great catering manager or somebody else that was involved that helped them walk through the process. So, I'm actually going to start with Nicole. Like, Nicole, when you're first starting to plan a wedding, give me an idea of like something that you think is super important that people don't typically think about.
Well, I think probably some things that people don't think about is, think of the big picture. Obviously, right. We know budget is super important, but overall, think of the big picture of your wedding and what you want it to feel like, and really what you want to give to your guests in the sense of imparting it with you and your fiance. And don't let yourself kind of get railroaded into like a cookie cutter, one shape fits all type of event, because there's so many creative and interesting and fabulous products and people out there and vendors that you can work with. So don't let your venue kind of take over everything else. Maybe sometimes reverse engineer it. Look right. at really important to you, a couple of things that might be really important to you, and reverse engineer it. So, because so many times we concentrate on the venue first, and the venue is super important because you've got to get your date nailed down and things like that. But your right. venue, so much of your budget, you're left with less to play with, and then you end up kind of having that cookie cutter effect.
I agree. It's especially in this day and age, there's just so many different cool venues to even look at. And that, in the past, it might have been very difficult for somebody to figure out how to make a unique venue work with bringing in catering, bringing in, furniture, but, there's companies like yours and like mine and like Peacock's Catering and, that are that's their job. That's their whole right. world, is to be able to do stuff like that. So they make it easy. Right. I was actually telling Marcy offline, I think that, the number one thing that I would do if I was planning a wedding and I hadn't been in the business is I might actually look to book some type of conversation with a wedding planner. Maybe not hire a wedding planner, but maybe a consultation for an hour just to kind of go over the idea of what is involved when planning a wedding. What are the major pieces? Obviously, venue is a big piece, florals, mm-hmm. photography, food, and DJ. I think that if you've got those big pieces, the rest of it you can fill in as you go. But, I think that you got to find your venue. You got to find your photographer, got to find a good photographer, because there's no reason to have a beautiful wedding and have a crappy photographer,
or crappy invitations.
Look at how Brooke just threw that in there. But entertainment is going to be a big one too, because if you have a crappy photographer and a crappy DJ, not only is your event not going to feel good the day of the event, but right,
whatever money you had,
right? But you're not.
I think sometimes adding, like you just brought up entertainment, I think everybody gets such into the mindset DJ or band. It can be other things, like think, like now that things are coming back again, people are ready to work. They want to be out there. So think out of the box. I think didn't you have fire performers at one of your weddings?
Yes. Yeah. And, you introduced me to this incredible band called the Leafy Greens, who I just adore. And they're just like a little two-piece band that typically, plays at local bars and stuff. And they're fantastic. I mean, and so inexpensive, by the way. So a little shout out to the Leafy Greens, because we hi guys, we love them and that's not somebody you would traditionally think of for a wedding venue, a wedding vendor is this kind of thing. So think outside of the box. But I think the number one thing that people should really look at is budget. What are you willing to spend? And then make your decisions based on that. Start there.
Right. But you can't. Sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry. No, I 100% or 1,000% agree with the both of you. I think that one of the things that people get caught up on is trying to do what their friends are doing. And then there's no special or unique tone to it. So I think that by making it your own and embracing it is going to make much more of an impression on your guests, which is ultimately what you want them to do. You want them to walk away saying, oh my gosh, that was the best, fabulous wedding I've ever been to. And then they come back to you 15 years later and they're still talking about it. That's when you've made the impression. You don't want them to walk away going, okay, it was another Saturday night wedding.
Yeah, but but when you hear the word big, fabulous wedding, it doesn't mean money. I think that's a big mistake. Is that everybody assumes that because if you pour money
on style, big on their view, big on what they're trying to convey. That's what's big.
Right. Yeah. So, figure out what
your
makes
point of view.
Well, and find out what makes you a couple and put it out there. Like, the wedding that we did recently. Yeah, it was unique. One of the things that we really loved about this couple is they love to travel all over the world. And so they wanted to bring in little pieces of their travels. And so we brought in these ribbons that they saw in South America. We saw these little stacks of stones that they saw in Machu Picchu. We pulled in the little butterfly release because of a ceremony that they saw in India. None of those things cost a lot of money. But it meant something special to the couple, and it drew their guests in because it gave them an experience to share.
Exactly.
And I think that's the piece here is that,
it was so personalized. That wedding was so good.
It really,
all the different ideas. It was like all the personal touches.
It really was.
It was great.
But let your friends do that, let your friends do your friends and you do you.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that's the thing is that, so, and people and I love the idea that a lot of people don't understand that when you're thinking about your anticipated experience, and we've talked about anticipated experience before on this show, that your guests don't get into the mindset of what you think you guys have anticipated in their experience, because most people are very simple when it comes to what they're thinking a wedding is going to be like. They're going, all right, I've been invited to a wedding, so I know that I'm going to have something to drink. I'm going to watch a couple of people get married. I'm probably going to have some food, and then I'm going to get to dance.
Eat, drink, dance.
Eat, drink, exactly. Eat, drink, dance, and that's where
focus your budget
love
on those three things.
But but that's what I'm saying is if you cover those things, you've covered what people you are gonna think they're going to come, and then build on that.
Yeah, exactly.
And your first impression too, I think, is important. I mean, that's where Marcy comes into play with
for the invitations,
right? Because it's telling your guests what it's kind of giving them a little prelude in a tangible way so that they can know how do they come dressed, what's the tone of the affair.
Yeah,
those are the little things just to get them started. But then when they walk in that room and they're seeing you and you're doing your ceremony and then you do your reception, those are the things that it adds. It's like layers that you're building upon.
And that's I'm so glad you said layers. I love you for that, because that's my thing. I love because a wedding is layers built on top of layers built on top of layers. You're not going to make all the decisions about your wedding in one visit. So get that out of your head. It's not going to happen all at once. It also takes a lot less time than you're going to assume once you figure out what you want to do. Once you figure out, you do you kind of moment, so don't get yourself all and pressured because you feel like, oh, these decisions have to be made today. They don't. You have time, I mean, we've all done weddings in 75 days. I know all of us have planned a wedding in 75 days and it was just like over the top and amazing. So if you have 6 months or a year, oh my God, you're good. Take a breath, Don't feel like you have to be pushed into signing a contract.
Take two.
Yeah, right. Don't feel like you have to be pushed into signing a contract because you feel like you're losing time. That's there's gonna be other venues. There's gonna be other locations. You just have to be open to it.
And you're going to have more options on the table too, because sometimes in a rush situation, that's going to shorten your abilities a little bit. So you kind of have to think about that too. When do you want to have this wedding? When do you want to get married?
How do people figure out their budget? What is a good way for people to kind of figure out, like, oh, this is how much I should be spending on my wedding, or this is how much I should, how do people figure out what their budget actually is? Does anybody
Well,
have
they
an
come to
idea?
people like you, Keith. I mean,
That's our job.
but you have to start with an overall amount. I mean, that's the first and foremost. Start with your overall amount.
Right.
And then you can allocate based on what's important to what's important to you. Some people may be more interested in the food. Other people may be more interested in the entertainment. Other people may be more interested in the decor. You have to figure out the importance of things to that particular couple.
Well, and I'm also going to just put out there right now that if you go to a venue, do not say to the person, well, we're really trying to save for a house, or we're really trying to, save for a honeymoon. That's not, first of all, that's not fair to put that on your venue, because their basic response is your financial issues cannot become my financial issues. And secondly, it actually will work against you in the overall, negotiations, because immediately you've set them at a line that says, okay, they're going to try to work me on every angle because they're trying to pay for a house. Come up with your budget, and your budget is your budget regardless of what else you're trying to do in your life. Nope. I hate to say this, but nobody really else cares what you're trying to do outside of your wedding.
Yeah, I promise that venue probably needs a new covered patio, and they're not worried about they're trying to save a house because they got shit to do too, baby. Like, I mean,
it's true.
It is true.
They gotta paint and pay their staff just like everybody else, and and they're in the business of making money. So when you're trying to figure out your budget, separate it from your personal life. It becomes its own entity. And as much as people try to feed into trying to because everybody wants to feel like they're connected with people, and that they want to believe that other people are very interested in what they're trying to do in their personal life, but they're not. They really aren't. I mean, at the end of the day, if I hear somebody say, well, we really want to try to save for a house, as an event planner, I totally understand that. If I'm a venue, I don't need to know that information. All I need to know is what kind of monies do you have for this particular venue, and can we make it work here? Don't waste people's time.
Love your house, help you win. How much money do you have for me in this wedding? Period. Very simple.
It is. It actually is. And
love that you want to save for a house, all about it. But
well, and that's the thing, is that you also want to make sure that you honor the person's time, because planning a wedding is no simple feat. It does take a lot of time to go and look at all these different venues and talk to lots of people. And so whatever you can do in order to maximize that time will work in both your favor and whoever you're talking to's favor. And they will respect that, and that actually will help you in the negotiation. If you respect each other's time, it will go a long way to formalizing a much better relationship long term, if you know what you want. And you know what
exactly. And be a little open. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to like if, for me, for example, I'll be honest, like if I have somebody come in for invitations, I'm going to ask them some questions so that we can kind of hone in their style and so forth.
Right.
But if somebody has a specific design that they want, aesthetic that they want to convey, yes, I have a multitude of invitations, but I don't have every invitation company out in my arsenal. I mean, I have tons and tons of companies, but if you have a specific invitation and I don't carry it, I don't want to waste your time,
Right.
So, be upfront if you are a little open. If you're not, then you're not. You just have to kind of know what you're looking for or have a kind of a style, but be a little bit open if you can. And take a look, when people tell you to look at their websites, take a look, take a look at their social media. There's opportunities out there for you to find what you're looking for, but you just got to kind of have an idea ahead of time so that so that your person that you're meeting with can help you better.
Well, and you want to be realistic. I mean, we all have a Pinterest dream.
Oh, oh my gosh.
We all have a Pinterest dream, but it doesn't mean it's always achievable to everybody. I mean, the world is unfair in a multitude of ways, and finances are one of those. But there's always going to be a way to find a way to make that dream, but you just have to be a little creative and you have to be flexible. I think Marcy hit it on the head. You got to be flexible with your dream.
Right. I mean, think of it this way. If you go to try on a wedding dress and you go and you pick out the most gorgeous, the most gorgeous style wedding dress, you put it on, you fall in love with it. And then you look at the price tag.
Wah, wah.
What are you going to do if it's way out of your budget? I mean, nothing else is going to compare to that. And you've already had it, up in your head now that that's what you want.
Crying
and nothing else to compare.
Exactly. Oh, that'd be so. Jan over at Broker Bridal, she'd be like, she was like,
oh my gosh,
yeah.
She does not like Pinterest.
No, she does not like Pinterest. But I think that. So so Nicole, you said you liked Pinterest.
I like it when people come to me with their ideas or their inspiration. Like you said, as long as they can be open, because you can take that and you can mold it to fit your budget. It might not be as grand as the Pinterest. Sometimes people bring you a chandelier that they love and see, and it's a $40,000 Swarovski chandelier. Well, that's probably not happening, but there's a way to get those looks. So personally, I absolutely love it when people bring me their Pinterest, because it gives me an idea of where they're headed, what they like, what they don't like. And there's a way to find it on every budget.
I like Pinterest too, for the same reason.
Well, I've had a lot of people, obviously I've dealt with a lot of different levels of brides as far as financial over the last couple of decades. Don't look too close at the screen. Anyway, and that's why I think that if you come in with an open mind and say, okay, look, I have $10,000 for this wedding. A lot can be done with your guest count. $10,000 when trying to invite 200 people and $10,000 when trying to invite 60 people are two totally different worlds. And if you have a dream,
hot dog water and champagne. Ooh,
yum, yum. But if you have a dream, reduce your guest count. Give yourself a little breathing room, because I guarantee you that if you're inviting 100 people, there's probably 20 or 30 people at that wedding that you're not going to care about in 10 years. Mm-hmm. That you look back and go, why did we invite them? I don't understand that. And that's actually one thing that I think COVID really did for people, is that it really made them focus down on their guest list and say, who really counts in our life? Right. Who really is somebody that we really want at this wedding? And I think that, when you're looking at your wedding and you're starting to do your wedding planning, the very first thing you need to look at is your guests. Who do you want to invite, and start there? And why? Why do you want to invite them? You agree?
Oh, totally.
Right?
Totally. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
here's a table with here's my money table. Here's my gifts. Okay. Here's the people that are going to make my life fun tonight. that table that's going to be drama, that table doesn't get to come. Get rid of them. There's 20 people gone. You know, it's mathematics. I'm really good at arithmetic.
Well, and that is true. You know, if somebody is causing you drama in your life, do not invite them to your wedding. Oh my God. And I know that, but they're my sister or they're my sister.
Or the mother-in-law has to be there, that kind of stuff.
You know what?
You gotta work on those things.
Nobody really has to be at your wedding, to be honest. It's your one day that you get to say whoever you really want to be there. You know, if you don't talk to somebody within a couple of years and they're close family and they're going to cause you stress and you feel like, oh, they're going to be nasty towards me if I don't invite them. Well, if you haven't talked to them in a couple of years, what do you care?
Yeah, if this person, like, here's my thing with the whole wedding list and the guest list and all that.
Yeah.
If this said person, worst case scenario, okay, I didn't invite Sheila for whatever reason, and if Sheila never talks to me again, are you cool with that? And if you are, checkmate. Bye. You know, there's your answer right there. Like, if you can't live without that person talking to you ever again because you're for whatever reason, then that's it. But if you're fine with Sheila,
done.
Put her on the bus, honey.
I love it. So in the world of event planning, I think your two number one things are your guest list, putting down who you think you need to invite to your wedding, and your budget. And those two are going to be the big determining factors of where, when, and how, because the number of guests that you have will definitely determine what venues you're going to be able to go to. Because if you have 100 people and the venue only holds 60, well, that venue's out of the game, so to speak. You know, and then if you have a $10,000 budget and the venue is 5,000 of that, well, that's kind of out of the game too. So cut that out. You know, done. Right. But when it comes to decor, and so Nicole, you're obviously brilliant at decor. I mean, you are my decor person. So, you know, shameless plug. Nicole is amazing at what she does. You know, what are some options that people might not think about when it comes to, you know, decor and centerpieces that don't always have to cost a lot of money?
Well, I mean, obviously it doesn't always have to be loads of flowers and huge floral bouquets. You know, I like when people try to personalize. As you had mentioned in just the previous wedding, you had different parts that came from the travels that your bride and groom had experienced in their life. So you can make your centerpieces different. They don't have to be all matchy one. You could do high ones. You could do ones. You could do, say you guys love books. I saw, this was not my event, but it was absolutely brilliant, where basically they had stacks of books and the pages coming out of the books, and it looked absolutely amazing. So, because it was a literary kind of a theme for the bride and the groom, and so they had stacks of books, and then they had the pages like literally coming up and out of the book. It was brilliant.
Oh, I love that.
I know, it was really cool. And I mean, how hard is it to go to the thrift store and buy a bunch of books and kind of create this, you know? So I also think you just have to not, like, I hate when people get pigeonholed, you know, just don't, like, they see what the venue's offering. Like,
yeah,
you can ask for upgrades for certain things. If the venue's only offering you white polyester, like tablecloths, for instance, there are options. And there's nothing worse than seeing the basic tablecloths and then they're wrinkled. You know what I'm talking about exactly, right?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yes.
You know, because when you have a solid color, the wrinkles show even more. You know, a textured pattern is super forgiving. You know, but the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I was just thinking that also, you know, when you're talking about your guest list and your venue, don't be pigeonholed into a time of day, because brunch weddings are typically much more affordable in general than, you know, evening affairs. Like if you do a Sunday brunch wedding, everybody's going to love you because everybody loves a good brunch, and it's going to be a lot less money overall when you talk about the food and beverage.
And I'm off work before the sun comes down on a Saturday, and I love every second of that. I'm a huge fan of brunch weddings.
I love brunch weddings.
All of them.
Yeah, but you know,
mimosa.
Exactly. But you know, it also gives you a lot more options to think about when it comes to decor. And I love the idea that, you know, decor doesn't, your centerpieces don't have to be flowers. I think we get all pigeonholed into the idea, and we say pigeonholed a lot actually in this program. All get caught up in that idea that a centerpiece needs to be florals, and it doesn't. I mean, we did a wedding at Books and Books, literally at the store, Books and Books. And Deanne from Events on the Loose, who designed her own wedding. I was only there to do the logistics, so God bless her, because she came up with some really incredible stuff. You know, her and her now husband loved that store, loved Books and Books, loved going there. Their families were involved with the store somehow, and so they went to the ownership, and we were able to do a wedding in the store. And it was a brunch wedding. And basically the menu was lox and bagels and eggs and very simple. But because it was a unique location and very different, people were blown away. And it did not cost that much money.
Unique.
Yes, it was unique. I mean, I think creativity will save you money in the long run. Be creative, be okay, and enjoy the cheese factor. I think a good wedding should have a little cheese factor going on. You should. Do you understand what I mean by cheese?
Oh yes.
Right.
Yeah, be sentimental, and it should mean something other than just like the glossiness or the, you know, it's your special day, and everybody will remember those touches. They're not going to necessarily remember what they ate. They're going to remember if it was good or not. Yeah. But they're not going to say, oh, that salmon with dill sauce was the best I ever had in my life. Maybe if it was, but most of the time they're gonna think chicken or beef or fish or whatever. But you know, they're gonna remember like special touches.
So yeah, like there's no beach, no church, no ball, no hall. I mean, that's your normal four, basically.
Right. I like the. What did you say that again? Your beach with your ball. Your
no beach, no church, no ball, no hall.
I love it.
I like that.
I love it. So if you take those out of the equation, what other venues are a possibility? Yeah. I mean, because, you know, I think of it this way. A wedding can take place anywhere, literally anywhere. Shut it. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, yeah, because that's
your job though. When that comes into play, I also think a part of your job is to talk them out of disaster.
Yeah. Well, we've all been there where somebody says,
I guess I got a angle because I'm not underneath you, but I don't know.
You know, but I mean, we've all been there where somebody said, oh, I want to get married by this beautiful pond that I remember as a kid. And then you go visit the pond and it's this overgrown lake with mosquitoes everywhere. And you're like, nope.
Or you can just have a glass bottom boat.
Well, you know, I got married on a glass bottom boat. It did a couple of things. I had almost all of my family and friends were from out of state. And so when they come to Florida, what do they want to do? They want to do touristy stuff. So there's the cheese factor. And so a glass bottom boat was perfect because it limited the number of people. It reduced the amount of decor that we really had to do, because how many tables can you really fit on a glass bottom boat? I can tell you 6. Anyway, because we filled it up. And people got to do something unusual and different. You know, how cool is that to be able to go do a wedding on a glass bottom boat?
That's cool.
Our wedding is in a warehouse. When Michael and we did a surprise wedding in our warehouse. We invited people for an open house. We didn't tell them they were coming for a wedding. So they just thought they were coming to check out the warehouse. You know, we had a band, we had catering, we had bars set up, we had all our pieces, a lot of our decor pieces out. We had tented the parking lot of our warehouse space, set up seating groupings and all this stuff. And then 8 o'clock, the bishop rolled up and we got married. We said, everybody, hey, by the way, we're getting married. So it was fun. People were surprised.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I love that.
And then
I love that. Oh yeah, then it rained. And then you know what I loved about the fact that it rained though is that you guys were totally okay with it. Like you didn't let it affect your. Yeah, it didn't affect your vibe at all. You just rolled with it and had a good time. And I think that when you get into the wedding planning 101, I think that's number one is whatever happens, let it happen. Don't get stressed out. There is nothing you can do to change what happens, and people's experience will be based on your reaction to it. So if you frown or freak out or cry or do whatever, then everybody else is like, "Oh, could you believe it? That bride, oh, it was so drama." And guess what people do with drama weddings? They talk about it. They talk about it, and they talk about it, and they talk about it. They do over and over and over again. So you definitely don't want to feed into the drama. But there's so many options. I mean, people and having a backyard wedding, and don't feel another big piece that comes into wedding planning 101 is that I think that people get worried about how other people think about their wedding. Like, what are people going to think about? Like, if we did it in our backyard,
just be you.
Who cares?
That's so normal. Like, there's so many people that have done that for years and centuries, decades. Like the backyard thing. That's like no.
Yeah, but I think that people get there is a worry that they look less because they can't afford the crazy larger wedding
with a gorgeous backyard that are nicer than churches, balls, and halls, honey. So listen, if you've got the location,
right. But that's what I'm saying.
You got the venue already there.
But if you have people that you're worried about how you're going to appear because you can't afford the same level that they do, don't invite them to your wedding.
Yeah, hello. That's the do not invite list. And
right?
also make 2 lists of who's coming and who's definitely not coming. In fact, do that. Who's definitely coming first. Get rid of that first. Take care of that business.
Exactly.
And the time of year. I mean, the time of year is going to play a factor in your list as well. I mean, is this during a holiday time that people are going to be coming down here to, like, we live in Florida? Are people going to come down to Florida? Is it during the season? Is it during the hot months? Is it a rainy season? Those are all things that you want to think about. Like, what do you want?
And I think we keep going back to that. What do you want? If you cut out all of the noise of everybody around you, you cut out the noise of your parents, you cut out the noise of your cousins, you cut out the noise of your best friend that means well and is just trying to quote unquote protect you.
Or your crazy mother-in-law.
The crazy mother-in-law. If you cut out all of them and really dug down deep to what do I want as a wedding, I think a lot of people are surprised that it's much simpler than they would have originally thought. I think a lot of times we get into the overdevelopment of a wedding because of what they're trying to convey because of what they think somebody's going to think about them. What the aunt's going to think about them. Yeah.
Strip it down.
Strip it down.
You shouldn't have people, those people, honestly, Psych 101, you shouldn't even have people like that in your life to begin with. If you have people like that in your life, check that out first. That shouldn't be a conversation. You shouldn't even have people like that, technically, unless you're like blood related, whatever that looks like, in your life to begin with. And if you do, take a look at that first, honestly.
Well, they want to pay for it, then, right?
Well, I'm all about, write a check, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, you want to pay. Yeah, exactly. You want to pay for your place at the table? Absolutely, 100%. Bring it. But
how much money is worth getting your wedding ruined, though? Let's talk about that.
100%. Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. So, strip it down to its bare essentials. I actually always say, what are the top 5 things? What are the top 5 things that you have always wanted to have at your wedding? And a lot of times is I want to have a first dance with my dad. If it's a father-daughter, I really want a sunset location. I really want, and it's typically simple things. And, and I say, keep those 5 things, write those 5 things down, put those aside, and then allow yourself to plan with the knowledge that you're going to protect those 5 things so that no matter what happens, the core of what you want at the wedding to happen happens. And then that way, if you have to adjust the guest count, well, I guarantee you, most likely you're not going to say, well, I wanted 150 people at my wedding. Nobody's going to really say, oh, I wanted 150 people at my wedding. You're going to say probably there are certain people that I want at my wedding. I want my family to be there. I want my loved ones to be there. So who are those, and protect that?
Mom, dad, husband, bartender. Probably someone with a hot dog on it. I'm good.
Bartender. That's
I have
awesome.
I love it.
a pet peeve that's going on currently.
Oh,
and I'm
tell
hearing-
me.
So I'm hearing this from a lot of people in the industry. So obviously, everybody knows the event industry has been really impacted by COVID. Many of us have been out of work for a year plus, and things are coming back. But a lot of people who weren't necessarily as impacted by COVID are now planning events, and they're really trying to bargain hard. Now, there's nothing right with shopping for your thing, but they're they're saying for some reason they seem like everything should be given away for nothing at this point in time. And a lot of us in the event industry don't have the ability to work for free right now. We've been without pay for a year plus. I'm hearing time and time again from people in the industry where clients are saying, well, we would have thought you wanted to work, or you need to do it for this price because you've been out of work, basically. Hello, for that reason, you should be paying us twice. I mean, come on.
Right.
No, but it's seriously, just think about it a little bit. I mean, because it's, if a performer who's been out of work for years, they don't have a bankroll at like to maybe give you a little bit more of a discount because they've been working consistently.
Right.
So, when you have an event, you have to think in not all the time that goes into just that particular event. Star. Somebody's walking their dog outside, but there's a lot of preparation time that goes in. There's proposals and things that are written back and forth. So there's a lot of time that goes into your event before the actual day of your event.
Right.
And you have to take all of that into consideration. So be kind to your event professionals. We're finally just starting to see a rainbow again, and it's a beautiful sight.
Well, and I'm going to actually say this to the vendors that are out there listening too. Many of us made special deals at the beginning of when COVID hit because it was a bad time. We were all suffering, right at the beginning. It was a shock. It was like kind of shock and awe. So, we all made some special deals. And the thing is that you have to live up to those, and you have to work those like they are normal pricing.
Absolutely.
And I find that there are some vendors that are saying, well, I'm doing this for extra cheap. Well, what we say privately to one another and what we do are two totally different things. And
Right.
And even though I signed some brides for a lot less money than they should, what we do and the level that we do it is the same across the board.
No,
They
of
don't,
course.
they don't get a discounted service. They get 100% keep
I'm a
Willard
prime
events.
example. I'm sweet as sugar and professional nice every single wedding or event we do.
No,
Not
of course.
like this.
Yeah, and well, let's say in front.
Yeah. Stay up.
And then let's not say behind the stage, but yeah, stay. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that what you say privately is one thing, but what you do is the second. So there's a level of respect that should happen between a bride or a groom and vendors. That you should respect their time, but also in reverse, you should respect the agreement that you came to.
Absolutely. No, without a doubt. If they're a client, they're a client. But
And I feel like you'll know that vibe before the contract's signed anyways. Do you know what I mean? If they on both sides, like red flags should come up before the ink dries or
Yeah.
even comes to that point. But then there's a lot of times where the ink dries and then all of a sudden a completely different person shows up.
I think people don't
I love
always.
you, Keith, because I don't have to deal with any of that.
I think people who are not in the industry don't always understand, and it's kind of so. If you want to order special tables and chairs, okay, yeah, maybe we already own those tables and chairs, but we have to pay someone to put them in the truck. We have to pay for the truck. We pay for the insurance on the truck, the gas on the trunk, our insurance for our company. So there are all these other costs that are also in there. And then your event starts that we set up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we break down at midnight. Our people get paid, for the rate for, what it is.
The entire time. Yeah.
So, just because they're not working at moving your tables and chairs during that time, we still have to pay them. So a lot of those costs get in. So there's a certain point of things that we can't do. And then when you don't have the savings that you had and your business has been struggling, you can't offer it because you don't have any cushion. So for people to be a little bit understanding that why there aren't going to be as many discounts on some things, and to be respectful of what is done in the industry and get everybody back on their feet.
And that's why when we started this conversation, the basis of when you're starting to plan your wedding is, you got to figure out what your budget is, and you got to figure out what your guest count is. And if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Find another way to make it happen, but don't try to push your vendors to do something for free, because a lot of times it's just not possible. And as us, as event pros, our whole world is trying to make people feel good. I mean, that's our whole job, is to try to make people have a good day. And so
Definitely.
I know when I'm not able to do something, I feel bad about it. And I have to really bite my lower lip and go, God, I really hate the fact that I'm being put in this to
Yeah, I got to deal with your mother-in-law that you really can't stand. I got to do that all day.
Right. But I go, God, I really feel bad that I can't do this for you because I can't afford it. Personally, I have bills to pay, I have storage to pay, I have electricity to pay, and those things cost money, and it's not something that I'm going to be able to give you. But
I'm not as cheap as I look.
I mean, the reality is we're in business to make money, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, I've actually had to turn business away because I had a potential client who wanted me to discount the item because they had received a discount from a prior person that did the same service in prior years.
Right.
That person was no longer in business. Well, obviously there's a reason why they're not in business anymore, because they were giving away the farm for free. And you can't, obviously if you continuously give and give and give, and you're not getting compensated for it, then how do you stay in business? We want to be around for our clientele for many years, and the way to do that is to have a balance. It's a balancing act.
It really is. And there are some things that I'm able to do and I'm happy to do, and there's just some things I'm not. But that's part of the conversation that you have with a couple. And and again, we're going to go back to the wedding planning 101. Be upfront. Be upfront with what your limitations are, and don't try to, because you're going to get more if you tell us exactly what you're having to deal with. And that way we can give you really truthful, honest responses is, you know what? We can't do this, but we probably could do this and keep you at the same rate. Give us a chance to be creative for you.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying, Nicole?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. It's a big world, and there's a lot of ways, and we definitely can work on any budget, but it may not be, like I said, the $40,000 chandelier, but we can give you a look with something.
There's a sparkler.
Oh, it's a sparkler.
In a glass.
In a bottle. Sparklers and have everybody hold them up at the same time. Right?
We did that this Saturday.
Yeah.
She's not kidding. Yep,
I
sparklers.
didn't underneath it because hair, but
sparklers everywhere.
Taking pictures from afar.
I think also a precautionary tale for people that are listening is that yes, I love Pinterest. I think Pinterest is a great place to be creative, but keep in mind that those pictures were done. One photo might have taken somebody 8 hours to set up to make sure it's perfect. And when you're talking about your wedding, you're probably talking about 8, 10, or 12 of those pieces, and you don't have that same amount of time. So it's not going to turn out that look. You got to be open-minded, and you got to listen. You got to allow yourself to be educated a little bit, but trust your gut.
The other thing with the Pinterest that people need to understand is that, some of the items that they're looking at online, they may not be necessarily the best interest for them, for example, maybe they're not in the country. Maybe they're from India or China or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And right now to get shipments in from those countries is like, nil, and, it's just not happening very well, very easily.
Well, and there's a flour shortage.
Mm-hmm.
There's a massive flour shortage that a lot of people don't even realize that is happening. And that's because when COVID hit, guess what happened? All those fields that were supposed to be plowed, hush, Brooke, that she was going to turn into a 12-year-old.
If only.
If only.
Not with this textured skin, honey.
Right, exactly. But all those fields that were supposed to be tended to, nobody was there to tend to them. And so we basically lost a year of growth. And so a lot of those flowers that were available a year ago are not available because they just weren't planted. And so
did we really lose growth though? You and I grew a lot, like from the waist out. Plow that.
Oh my goodness. COVID-19.
Yeah, right.
COVID-19. If only, man. If only it was COVID-19. Oh my God. But but again, I think that if people are honest and truthful with themselves about first guest count and the amount of money that they want to spend, a lot can be done if you have at least that basic information. And then when you start talking to people, trust your gut. You will know immediately if you feel like somebody's trying to give you a snow job, right? There are salespeople out there that immediately. You're like, oh my God, don't buy this car. It's gonna fall apart as soon as it leaves the lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Well, speaking of a lot of those, things that you see from China or India or, wherever.
Yeah.
Like you said, the time it takes to take those pictures, it comes in, and if it comes in, you will be surprised at what it really looks like in person. So you've got to go with people that know their vendors, know the quality, know their, what they're representing is. Listen to your vendors because they know who can do it best, who can do it for the right price, who can, how long it's going to take. They have that because they've already been through this a lot of times before.
Stop.
They have the experience.
Ladies, I implore you, go with the Toyota Corolla. That's very bad.
Well, so how would a bride or a groom, figure out like who to reach out to first? Where do you start? I mean, we're in the business. We have gotten so used to the fact that we just know what we're doing that to us it's second nature. But if you're out there and you finally said, yes, I'll marry you, how do you figure out what to do next?
First thing first, if you're going to hire a wedding planner, that's the very first thing that I would recommend to people do first.
Yeah, but where do you find it?
Well, you ask around.
Modern Luxury,
do your research.
New York Times. I can tell you plenty of places to find you.
Ask the people where if you have some place in mind, ask them where, who they recommend.
Right.
If you don't have a person to ask. But, word of mouth is usually the best format. Also going online, taking a look at their website, taking a look at the inventory or the resources that person has. It's kind of like buying a car, go out there and do your research. Or are you buying a refrigerator? What features does it have? What benefits does it have? Those are the things that you want to look at. When I'm shopping for anything.
Right.
2 doors on both, I'm fine.
Right, exactly. I'm a coupe. I'm not a 4-door.
Coupe.
Drunk and an ice cube maker. I'm great.
I come with an ice maker and 2 doors. Yes. So, but like Nicole is I recommend Nicole and we all of us recommend each other because we know we can count on each other to do a really good job. And I think that helps also when you have a community of people that you can reach out to and connect with. It doesn't take very long to get in the know, but you gotta start with a question. Who did you use for your wedding, and how did you feel? Did you like them? Right. I think that's an easy question to start asking. Plus, everybody loves talking about planning a wedding. It's not like you're at the office and you're like, oh, guess what? I'm getting married. Everybody's is going to say, oh my God, let me tell you who I used. Oh my God, let me tell you what to look out for. And they're all going to tell you the horror stories. That's my favorite part about when people first get married. They're like, oh, guess what happened to my friend? Oh, it was awful. Don't listen to too much of the horror stories because those are rare, actually, and far in between. Nicole, you look like you were about to say something.
Yeah, I got a feel. Let's
Say
wrap
that.
it. I'm out of jumpsuit on.
I was going to say that, your venue, whatever venue you go to, probably has a coordinator on staff that's going to handle your wedding, but that is not a wedding planner. They may hand you a list of vendors that they recommend that are on a preferred vendor list. Sometimes those vendors pay to get on those lists. Sometimes they more often they don't, but there are some places that are pay for play. So people don't necessarily their best. They're the people who just pay to be on the list.
Sometimes you're just excellent.
That's true.
Well,
True. Well, and you do have to. Sorry, go ahead.
Your venue coordinator is not going to be helping you negotiate in your favor, your photographer or your florist, or that's where your true wedding planner is going to come into play because they know. They've been doing it. This is what they do. They know what prices you should.
And a good venue is going to have good. If they have a list, they're going to have good photographers, good wedding planners, basically event planners on that list.
But go check them out.
If you're in a 5-star hotel, they should have 5-star wedding planners on their list already.
I would.
But
still
they've worked
check
with
them out.
numerous times.
But you definitely you go to Wedding Wire, you go to the Knot, you go to
luxury,
Google,
the time.
you go to Google,
And see
What's
how
the
your
other one?
personality. When you meet with your vendors, see how your personality intermingles with that person too.
Right.
Because not everybody is, not everyone is for everyone.
That's true.
I've been saying that for years.
I'm a good fit for a lot of people, but I'm not for everybody, and vice versa. And the other thing, when talking to vendors, and don't be afraid to ask this, is that if they give you a really good price, which seems a little low to you, ask if they're getting kickbacks from other vendors. I mean, because that's unfortunately part of the process down here in South Florida is that sometimes wedding planners or other wedding professionals will give you a really good price, but that's because they're making up for that money elsewhere. And I feel like that's fair. If they're willing to give you wedding planning services for $1,000 or $2,000, they gotta still make a living, and so they're making that by taking that percentage that they would have normally gotten a discount, let's say for chairs or other places that give you a 10%. They're gonna keep that 10%. Doesn't mean you're paying any extra, but you are gonna end up paying for that wedding planner one way or another.
And what do we do at Keith Lord events?
We never take it.
If we get a kickback, it goes to our bride and groom.
It does.
But that's a really good question to ask. That's very, very, because we do often get like a courtesy discount from other people in the industry. And there are some people who want to know what the fee is. They want to pay the full fee up front, and some people who don't want to. We all have clients like that. There are some who are like, I want to know what your fee is, 100%, this. Okay, it's $2,500.
Right.
And we're going to help you by helping you negotiate better contracts and saving you money here. So ultimately, our services get paid for it, like you said, one way or the other. But we do have to eat and pay the bills. So
and that's why I tell people, it's like, I'm not going to be the least expensive because all of my fees are totally up front and the client is paying for all of them. I'm not making any money from any other vendors because whatever discounts I may get from other vendors, I'm going to pass on to my clients. But that's part of the agreement that I have with my clients is that I'm your advocate in all things, and any discounts that are handed to me, I'm going to hand to you, but you're going to pay a higher price.
Sure, right. Absolutely, yeah.
And if somebody else is willing to say, look, I'll do it for a lesser price, but whatever discounts I get are my discounts.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. You're not paying any extra money, but again, you are going to end up paying for it one way or the other. So just be aware of that. It's not a dirty secret. It's not meant to put anybody down. It's just how different people work, and that it needs to be, and that you need to be aware of it, and ask that question. And it's
that's
okay.
the first thing I asked you when I came on board before I physically I asked you because I know a thing or two about the industry. And I asked you that. I straight up asked you, what about kickbacks? And you're like, this is how I roll. I'm like, all right, I'm yours forever because that was the right answer for me. because I probably wouldn't have worked otherwise.
It's just not my. It's just not my thing.
I
It's
don't
just
like
not my
that.
thing,
No.
and I don't think
Never
it's
did.
Nicole.
Integrity is a big, huge part
Mhm.
of my life, and people do make mistakes, and you can bounce back from things. But your intentions,
Oh, I think intentions
pigs
is
get
everything.
greedy. Pigs that slaughter don't be greedy.
Yeah, pigs. Yeah,
right.
that's exactly right. But you know, and I think that all of us work the same way, and we're lucky because you know we're part of the NACE, National Association of Catering and Events. Is a group of event. If you're looking for an event pro, you're starting into the wedding process. Reaching out to one of these event pro associations is not a bad way to start. Reach out to ILEA, International Live Events Association, or NACE, National Association of Catering and Events, or MPI, Meeting Professionals International. They have lists of vendors in every city of people that are part of those associations. And so you can cross-reference the list that you get from your hotels and your vendors to these other association lists, and you're going to find some commonalities. And those are probably really great places to start. I don't know. Am I speaking out of turn, guys?
Absolutely. I mean, they may not belong to every association, but as you know, if they're a member of, like, let's say one association, and then they're on the list from the hotel, then
Right.
obviously there's something, you know, maybe there's a reason why they've aligned themselves in the caliber that they have. Is because they've educated themselves. They're continuing to educate themselves. They're continuing to network. They're continuing to bring you the newest and the latest designs, you know, whatever it is, but there's a reason for it. You know, it's not just, you know, that they're giving somebody money to be on a list.
Well, and pay attention to those people that support local not-for-profits too, because I know that all of us have done free events for not-for-profits as a way of giving back. You know,
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we've provided uplighting for 1 million different events for free because we're trying to allow people to raise money, especially during that last year. Nicole, I know that you've done a ton of work for different educational groupings that you should have charged a lot more money for, that you wanted to make sure that they had an amazing experience. And so I think that's also important, that if you're just jumping into this, also pay attention to, you know, who's supporting your local not-for-profits.
Also,
'Cause
insurance. Let's talk
insurance.
So a good way to check out, you know, if your vendor's good is ask for a current insurance, because you want to make sure that you're insured. Now, a lot of your venues will require a certificate of insurance from whoever your vendors are going to be. But if you're getting a price that's too good to be true, you know, you may want to make sure that that person is properly insured, because the last thing you want is someone who is not pulling into a loading dock with a bunch of stuff and they damage things, you know, and then it's not going to be a fun time. So insurance is also a good way to check to make sure that people are have sufficient coverage and that they're professional, you know. So you want to make sure, especially if you're doing something at your own home or whatever it is, that people are covered.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You know, anybody that's reputable in the South Florida should have some type of liability insurance. It's fairly inexpensive. I can't imagine that anybody would go without it, because I just wouldn't want to take that risk. But
Right.
And licensed.
And licensed, if they're licensed as well, because all of us are licensed in one way or another. So, you know, it's important that you check them out. You know, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, don't go with the first person, for God's sakes. You know, don't be like, oh, okay, let me just go with whoever answers the phone call. Take the time to reach out and research and make an informed decision.
You can go back to that person, but just,
100%.
Get about at least 2 or 3 people that you meet with, whether it's virtually and, you know, on the phone or in person. You know, just have some kind of conversation.
And be okay and have multiple conversations, because I mean I've met with couples 2 or 3 times before. I mean I've met with them once and they're like, give me your contract, and then there's other that I've met with them, then I met with the parents, and then I met with a friend, just so that they, you know.
I also think that, you know, one thing that you can also think about is that when you're leaving messages for a vendor, if they don't respond to you, check back, make sure that they've received the message, because in this day and age with technology, I mean, honestly, I will be honest, I had a message from somebody that I got, it was just a few weeks ago, but the message was about a month old, and I had never seen or heard that message before.
Oh, yeah.
And I check my phone several times a day.
Yeah, but I actually disagree with that, because I feel like if somebody doesn't get back to you, you let them go.
Well, yeah, okay, so you let them go, but the reality is I mean, like in my instance, I did not even have the message. It never even registered.
So how did you know that you missed it?
Because when I went back in, because I check my thing every single day, and all of a sudden it appeared. It was the weirdest thing. I don't know why.
Like Jesus,
all of a sudden,
like Jesus jumped up. All right,
jumped up.
Ta-da!
And I had never seen that before, so I don't know if there was some kind of a faulty technology or what the case was, but it isn't always that people get your message or something. So you do have to kind of think about that.
And 90% of the time,
90% of the time, yeah.
And that's the other thing, is that one of the things I really love about Nicole is that she gets back to people really quick. Like she puts together that proposal, thinks about it, has a conversation, gets back to people, and even if it's going to take her a little bit of time to get a proposal back, her first initial response is, received it. Let me work on a proposal. We'll have it back to you in the next couple of days, because at least then you get an answer. And I think that's, I find that it's not the question that drives people crazy.
Let me know you see me and you hear me.
Right?
Communication.
It's not the question that drives people crazy. It's the amount of time waiting for somebody to respond.
Yes.
And I think that number one is, when you're starting the wedding, don't give people excuses. Trust your gut right away. If you don't feel comfortable with them, move on. There are 1,000 other event people out there, from venues to planners to decor to florists. There's
exactly.
You got to build the team that you like. Well, oh my God, it's already an hour. Holy crap. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for being a part of this week's Behind the Veil. I hope it was informative for some people that are out there. If you have any questions, or you're a new bride looking for a venue or a vendor to reach out to, a good place to start would be Nicole Sellers with CLEV Events and Rentals, Marcy Gutenberg with An Affair to Remember by Marcy, Brooke Logan Stoner, because she's pretty, and myself, Keith Willard Events. All right, guys, thank you very much. Everybody have a great day, and everybody say goodbye.
Bye.